Loyalty has a price. These thoughts were on repeat as we were entering Monaco's private yacht hangar. Last year, exactly this day, my sentiments were totally different about my wife. There was a time when I was madly in love with her. Despite my best friend stopping me, I still wanted to spend my quality time with her and wanted to marry her no matter the cost. But today was totally different. She was the most hated person I had ever met. She took away 3 years of my life, left me in pieces. Though all was not lost, and today was my day to prove my self-worth and remind her of hers. The story of revenge and disloyalty is something that will stay with me for many years to come. I belong to a very well-known business family and a very prominent one, and after graduating from Harvard Business School, I was to join my family business. We had a benchmark group of companies including textiles and packaging. Belonging to a very hardworking family, there was no doubt I was also topper of class and a very shrewd businessman. We were always discussing new ways to come up with new ventures, and it was not a surprise that we all were very dedicated to our family business. Almost all the top-tier athletes and fashion models were in my friend list, and it was passion of mine to always participate in Formula One races and to support my home team. We were one of the main donors of English team and also was my close buddy. We used to hang out in my private yacht after the races. Once when I was in Monaco with my classmates, hosting them in my private chambers there, we were rooting for the British team and everything was going pretty smoothly. Our scores were pretty high and we had no doubt that today's celebration would be an epic one. Suddenly, I saw something that really stopped my world. She was blonde and tall. The way she moved in a very articulated manner was something that captured my attention and forced me to stop talking to my friend and to notice her. This was a unique moment of my life, as I had dated multiple times before, but never saw someone so pretty or a head turner that I would immediately drop my conversation and request her to join us for dinner on my yacht. The funny thing is that she assumed that I'm requesting her to join us as waitress. She immediately agreed for her services. This amused me much. I laughed it off and requested her not as a waitress, but as my guest, and it would be a privilege for me if I buy her a new dress. She immediately turned pink and was blushing out of shyness. She finally agreed. After the race, we went for shower shopping in my new self. I took her to Victoria's Secrets and brought her the best suit they had to offer, and also bought her new perfumes from Chanel. She had a very lively personality and a beautiful, charming smile, which captivated my attention. I had never in my life met someone with such energy and enthusiasm. She was such an agreeable person that everything went smoothly, and she made me feel like an important person. I was much more interested in her just on our first day out, so I tried to initiate conversation about her past. She basically told me that she's a student of med school and serves as a waitress part-time, just to support her education, although she has a 70% scholarship, but still she needs to be met. This was something that struck my heart and I wanted to help. So I said, how about you come and work for me after this event, and I'll take care of all your expenses. Upon hearing this, she beamed pretty highly and was very much thankful for this nice gesture. Evening went smoothly as all my friends were there and we were having the blast. She was also there but very shy and sitting on the side, just keeping to herself. So I tried to engage in conversation and took her to my private rooftop to show her around the beautiful life of a city from far, with the beautiful perspective of the sea that you only get on such a luxury. Just after a while, she joined our company, and I requested our manager to make her my personal assistant. As the workload was too much, it took her a couple of weeks just to get adjusted to new location and new work life. She was also a very hardworking person and almost never late to work. What really clicked me was that she was very particular about arranging everything before I used to come to the office each day, and everything was ready for me before my meetings. My efficiency increased by 50% and the results spoke for themselves, and all credits were to her dedication for this kind of support. We became close friends, and mostly after work, I used to invite her to dinner to any good restaurant. It did not take us long to bond a formal relationship, and I was very much impressed by her considerate nature. But then something unfortunate happened. At least that's how I used to think. She graduated from med school and requested me to leave this company so that she could join a hospital. I had not much of a choice but to agree, so she left our company and now was a resident at a German cardiac hospital. I started to miss her terribly. The one lady that replaced her was also good, but now I was missing her way more often than expected. Although we used to meet on every third or fourth day and were spending almost each weekend together, still it was not enough for me as I was getting possessive for her day by day. But I noticed that she was growing somewhat distant toward me and was almost always busy all the time. Even after requesting for dinner, she started making excuses for hospital routine and was mostly not available. This really struck me as I had never anticipated this to happen ever before, but now I have no idea how to find a way around it. As almost every day we were very much occupied, but whenever I had time she was not available. This thing turned into days and then into weeks, and we started seeing each other just mostly on Sundays. And it has now started to hurt me a lot as I was getting more and more possessive. So on one fine Sunday while we were having walk in a park, I just could not take it anymore, and right there and then I dropped on my knees and showed her diamond ring and asked her hand in marriage. Shiva immediately got emotional out of happiness, and without anything, she agreed to it. All of my close friends stopped me from making such impulsive decision, as it was not in my nature to be, since I was a very calm and calculated person. But this was something that had taken over at my best and compelled me to take such hasty decisions. I knew the risk, as it would cost me millions of dollars if the prenup was not signed. But I was just blind and mad in love, so I just shrugged it off and stopped my friend from making any further comments and started preparing for our marriage. Finally, the day came when she was in a white dress and I was wearing black tuxedo, and we were ready to say our vows. It was the happiest day of my life as all my family members and my friends were there for us. Everything was going beautifully, yet I felt a little bit of sadness in her eyes. I was not sure what it was. I just figured it might be the tiredness of the event. We went to Maldives for honeymoon, and it was one of the most exotic locations I could decide. As the sunset there was something magical when you see it disappearing in the sea. It cannot be described in words. We spent almost 2 weeks there. Upon returning, she joined her hospital, and I got busy with my work routine. Yet we made a really good routine for spending almost each dinner together. Sometimes I used to visit her hospital, and we had our dinner dates in cafeteria. Other days she would come to my office, and we had our weekend dinners dedicated to going out and exploring different cuisines in one of the best restaurants that Chicago had to offer. Time was moving fast, and some days I used to feel that she was distant toward me, as now we were only spending time on weekends. It really started to bother me because we were almost spending each day together, and now we had so much gap between us, and lots of catching up. But it was something that I protested initially, but she just shrugged it off. Sometimes I used to get annoyed due to her shopping habits because she was basically a spender and used to buy anything to everything, and it was something that was not very well settled with me because we were part of a very conscious family and we used to take care of our fiancés, and we were very much considerate on where and when to spend. We started to have fights because she was spending above the credit limit, but it was not something of a concern because I was making enough to cover it all. Yet I requested her to take care of this stuff, but it was kind of normal to her. Then something unexpected happened that really shocked my ground. As I was scrolling my social media, I saw she was tagged along her classmates and a black dude was standing very uncomfortable close to her, and it was a picture taken just a couple of days ago. So when she came late at night, I showed her and asked her if it was something of a concern. She basically shrugged it off and said not to worry about it. It was just a party, and it was a one-time event, so it has none of my concern to overthink it. The hostile nature of her basically took me off guard, and I was very much concerned for a while, but as time moved forward, I also got a bit easy in my approach and almost forgot about that event. Just after 6 months, a great news came. She got pregnant, and I was happy beyond any possible measures. My whole family came to meet and greet us, and we were all very much excited to have a new member of our family. But what was yet to come shook my reality and broke my heart. Now all the advice that my friends gave me is starting to come to my mind. And it was like I was coming back to my senses because I had never ever imagined this kind of stuff could ever happen to me. Since I was the one who had sacrificed just everything for this girl, and I gave my very best, not only that, her every need was taken care of, so was her expenses, but how could she do this stuff to me? This made me furious, angry, depressed, and full of revenge. At the same time, just because of this one thing. The baby was black. Everyone noticed it, starting from my family to my friends to my fellows. Even the office mates that were remotely connected to me also noticed it. It was evident in everybody's eyes. This was the most humiliating moment of my life because everyone knew what actually had happened. Because the evidence was right there, and I could not be more ashamed of myself. And at the same time, I could not believe how this could all happen. So when everybody was gone, I gently held the hands of my wife and requested her to tell me the truth. How can the baby be black? First, she shrugged it off and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's a medical condition that is very common to blonde ladies." Upon insisting, she still stood her ground. I was also a professional, so I definitely did not take it any lightly and did a DNA test, and it was pretty obvious. The child was not mine, but I did not tell her. Instead, I wanted to give her the surprise of her life that she will remember days to come. I knew who the child's father was because it was that black dude that was standing in the picture. So I started to snoop around her social media and hired a private investigator to look into their relationship, and the news that was brought to me really was heartbreaking because they were in a relationship for 2 years and she was simply not leaving me because of my money and all the facilities that I was providing her, while she was enjoying her life with him, and all the excuses of being late at hospital were just excuses. He was just a junior doctor there, so I planned something that would surprise everyone. On her birthday, I invited her whole class and medical staff to my private jet and take them on a tour. She was also invited there while everyone was very excited and greeted her very well. She was kind of distant and was basically avoiding everyone. After cutting the cake, when it came time to give presents, I handed them over 2 pieces of letter and put a condition. One will be opened by that black dude and the other one will be opened by my wife. They both were surprised to hear this, and she was horrified. When the black dude opened the paper, it was a DNA test and a parenting certificate which was legally for him by the government that he'll be taking care of all the expenses of the child. The horror in his eyes was something that I will never forget in my life. He had never imagined that I would have known this and would be taking any legal action against them. Now he was bound to do so, and when she opened her letter, it was her divorce papers. In order to immediately evacuate my home, all legal actions will be taken. They both were bewildered, and it was the first time I was feeling satisfied for the rightful action that I had taken. The next day, videos were all over the news channel and the internet. It became a very public event, though it did take me to a spotlight, but I'm glad that the next generation would never do such a thing and will seriously consider the consequences of taking such actions.